Welcome to Building Healthy Relationships, the 4 Habits podcast, helping you enjoy better harmony at home, thrive at work, and win at life. Here are your hosts, Dr. Andrea and Jon Taylor-Cummings, recognized authorities on the subjects of improving work relationships and cultures, as well as couple and home relationships.
Well, hello and a warm welcome to all our guests around the world. Thank you for joining in, whether it's good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's a joy to have you with us today. And today we're delighted to have as our guests Celynn Morin, who will be sharing details on how we can go after wealth without compromising our health. We're really looking forward to get into that. So welcome, Celynn. Great to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here.
And we need to give you your proper introduction so everybody will understand the powerhouse and the wealth of knowledge that you bring. So John's going to take us through the bio.
Absolutely. That we always love to do. Okay, so Celynn Morin is a qualified dietitian, author of 2 books, and a workplace well-being consultant. She has a practical and playful approach to helping business leaders and their teams enrich the quality of their lives, which she does by helping them connect their mind, heart, body, and spirit in a way that supports their well-being. Celynn has an active interest in the field of epigenetics and gut health. I want to find out about more of that. I need me some of that. The founder of the Well Calculator framework and the Wellbeing Clubhouse, she describes herself as an effervescent foodie. We'll talk about that as well. Whose mission is to convince...
French foodie.
Exactly, a French foodie, absolutely.
Food, yeah.
Her mission is to convince business leaders they don't have to give up their health whilst building their wealth. She is an accredited heart math coach and embodiment facilitator. Celynn is a professional speaking fellow, I should say, recognized for her distinctive style that blends curiosity, celebration, and a contagious joie de vivre. Born in South Africa with deep roots in France's Champagne region, we'll talk about that as well, she now resides in the UK. A true connoisseur of champagne and an avid partner dancer, Celynn brings energy, elegance, and a zest for life to everything that she does, including the makeup. I mean, it starts with the lipstick. We've been talking about the lipstick already. That zest for life is coming through loud and clear.
I just love the combination of, serious stuff with playfulness, with this energy for life that really comes through in the bio and when we speak with you. So, Celynn, what's the story behind all of this? Where did all this passion come from to, bring you to what you're doing today?
Well, firstly, it feels like such a privilege to be able to have somebody read out your bio. It's a combination of deep humility and also I'm like, I like her. I want to meet her.
Us too.
So I am fortunate that I feel that at this point in my life, which I like to refer to as midlife, whatever that might be, I genuinely do like who I am. And yet
Wonderful.
I struggle at times. And from a young age of being a young child, I was intrigued by medicine and pharmaceuticals and herbs and the idea of helping people be well and healthy. So I was always interested in first aid courses and learning about herbs and things. And that led me to study dietetics. Once I was practicing as a dietitian, I managed to get into workplace well-being, and I realized I could have so much impact there, proactively helping people be aware of their well-being and the impact of stress rather than waiting until they were diagnosed with, say, diabetes or heart disease. And now I have this joy of combining my heritage and some of my life experience, realizing actually we don't know everything around medicine and health and well-being. We know some basic principles. So actually, I'm going to change my bio because I'm not here to convince anybody to do anything. I'm here to remind people of what they know because we have inner wisdom. We're just often so busy and stressed that it's almost like we don't plug into that Wi-Fi. We constantly plug into the stress response. So I guess I'm here to remind people about their inner intelligence and to have fun because life is meant to be lived and enjoyed, not just about work and being tired. And we're seeing a lot of mental health issues and burnout. So it's a reality that life isn't always easy. And we can choose whether the struggle becomes a suffering or the struggle is something we can learn compassion from.
Oh, that's so beautifully said. And that's exactly where we need to get to in corporate life, how to do things differently. I think post-COVID, that's challenging us to do life and work very differently.
It's that joie de vivre coming through there. Working to live, not just living to work. It's not all about the work. We gotta live life, right?
And I love that
Absolutely.
phrase, inner intelligence, and how do we tap into that? So tell us a bit of what it is that you work to achieve in organizations, with business leaders. What do you go in and see, or what point do you get involved, and what are you able to help them achieve?
Well, I must say that I'm really grateful for the awareness that COVID brought to well-being in the workplace, because
Indeed.
not all organizations were doing it. It was seen more as that's your home personal life. However,
Exactly.
we know that if you don't have harmony at home, you won't thrive at work and you're not going to win at life. So
Indeed.
how we are is
Indeed.
how we show up everywhere, whether we're at home or at work. Sure, we can sometimes put on masks, but if we're not authentic, that can drain our energy. And so a lot of the work I do is around how do you balance and sustain energy? Because we all need to be able to think, feel, and act in a sustainable way. And because of the pressures of life, and because a lot of what I teach people know. But as I say, common knowledge isn't always common practice. So we aren't hydrating, we aren't eating the right gut foods, we aren't getting all the sleep that we need, we aren't self-aware and self-regulating. And then that drains our energy, mentally, emotionally, physically. And then you don't even have energy left for thinking about spiritual things or meaning or legacy or contributing to community or random acts of kindness. And ideally, I'd like to help contribute towards a more conscious humanity where, with all this tech and AI, I'd like to feel that I'm contributing towards authentic intimacy, not just artificial intelligence. How can we connect really intimately, not just implying what happens in the bedroom, but now we're having an intimate experience.
Absolute real connection.
Yeah. A friend of mine said
intimacy. That's a different definition of AI. Love that. You're so speaking our language.
And intimacy for me is into me you see, allowing ourselves to be seen by another. And that can happen with a stranger when you're exchanging, a greeting. You can really look into somebody's eyes and not just answer, I'm fine, or genuinely ask, how are you really? Yeah.
Wow, you've just said so many powerful nuggets right there, because, into me I see, I remember that, because that's our deepest desire, isn't it? To be known, to be seen, and to be loved exactly as who we are, rather than needing the masks and the stress of pretending to be who we think others think we should be. So really powerful.
I was going to pick up on the point you made about the connections between home and work, because we did just before COVID had actually some work back in 2019, back end of 2019, and it was research looking at high pressured roles, sort of typical city jobs, whether it's professional services firms, law firms, accountants, the people that you see if you walk around the city of London or any financial services district or any sort of major city, the people you see walking around busy, stressed with life. And we just wanted to look at what actually happens to those people in terms of their relationships. And and our sense was, having worked in those environments, the relationship breakdown was at a pretty high rate, but there was no evidence to support that. So we did some research. It was here in the UK, but it was looking at I guess fairly high earners, but not the super wealthy. The survey was looking at people with household incomes of 100,000 and above. So this is not. It could be one individual earning that, which is well done them. It could be a couple on 50,000 each. So it's not necessarily the highest of earners, but we were looking at that sort of middle income in the city type environment, and we said, what do their relationships look like, and what level are they breaking down at? And we then compared that to across the UK, and there was an omnibus national average number. And actually, the results for us were startling. We knew it was going to be high, but we didn't think it was going to be that high. But domestic relationship breakdown in that demographic of households of 100,000 and above was 3 times greater than the national average, 3.5 times greater than the national average. And we thought, oh my word, this is serious stuff. And no surprises, the pressure that they're under, the lifestyle, the drive, the also in that environment, the corporate entertainment, you're away from them for a while. Work is absolutely impacting home, and home, as you rightly say, comes back and impacts work. So what more we can be doing to get people well, so that they're well in that environment, so it doesn't impact. Because the other finding from the study was that if things at home aren't great, that actually impacts their ability to perform in the workplace as well. So
to
whatever
be present. Yeah.
whatever we can be doing to support people to be present, turn up present, has got to be a good thing. What other things have you been doing to help people, to support people in that way, to turn up as the better person there?
I think that's such an important question, and that research is astounding. Is we need to really understand how each of us are reacting and responding to stress, because we will get triggered or activated in different ways. And I know, and most of us are stressed, and it's a bit like we forget how it is to feel when you're not stressed. Wow. And if we're fortunate enough to go on a 2-week holiday, it's often in the second week that we relax enough to notice, oh, this is what I'm like when I sleep properly. This is what I'm like I don't feel like sugar. I'm hardly drinking coffee. I'm actually happy. But, we can't wait for 2-week holidays once a year, because our relationships won't survive that.
Yeah.
So having strategies that you can use real time is so important. So the leadership teams I work with, I've done some work in the City of London too, so I know exactly what that environment is like. So for instance, I've got an exercise that I do with most of my groups. It's called the Mindful Minute. You set your timer for 60 seconds. You count how many breaths you're taking. And we know that you should be taking about 6 to 8 breath cycles in a minute. But most of us are breathing very quickly and very shallow because of stress. And that, just starting with that awareness, you don't even need to change anything. You can just be curious with, how am I breathing in this moment? Because looking at the breath, I won't go into the science behind that, but the breath is the doorway into the nervous system. And it's the fastest, cheapest way that you can slow down your system and create calm and harmony inside you, despite chaos around you. And everyone has a minute. If you don't, then we really need to be having a different conversation.
Exactly right.
So, starting with techniques like that and understanding how, even right now, any listener or if you're watching, what is your posture like? And could you create some relaxation around your shoulders and your jaw and your neck? Because we carry so much tension here. And just allowing the tongue to drop in the mouth, the shoulders to drop towards the ground, 1 or 2 degrees more of relaxation creates harmony in the body. And I come from the stance of the quality of your relationships is only as strong and authentic as the quality with yourself.
Yeah.
So, and self-awareness is the first piece, then self-regulation. We can't make a conscious choice to change if we're not conscious of what's happening inside our bodies in the first place.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, so real-time techniques and thinking about being more aware. And I would say starting with the breath and what I call musculature, the muscle tension. If we can relax that and soften the breath more frequently, even if you start with 1 minute, but if you can do that more often in your day, that exercise and practice alone can be life-changing.
Well, the minute you said it, it's, I started going, oh my gosh, I wonder how many breaths I take, and just becoming much more aware. Like you said, instantly you become more aware, and then you can do something differently.
I want to get more of those little tips and tricks in there, because there are definitely things we can be doing to control ourselves. We had a guest on a few weeks ago who was sharing that when your heart rate goes up, you most of us tend not to be the nicest of people. You're under pressure, all sorts of things can come out. But I can't remember who was sharing, but it was a he. Yeah. But the example that he shared was of how some people can control their heart rate, and he shared an example of Cristiano Ronaldo, the footballer. Yes. So in the Euros, in the last Euros that just happened, was it last year now in the UK or in Germany? Anyway, he was playing, and somehow somebody was tracking his heart rate, I guess through his watch or whatever. But they recognized that his heart rate at the beginning of the match was something like 100 beats per minute. And at the end of the match was something like 150 beats a minute. But when he actually went to score a penalty, his heart rate went down to 70.
At the
most pressured point, somehow he was able to get it together, bring his heart rate down, and score his penalty.
So I know the question
under
you're
control.
Ask
I want to know, what was he doing? How can we do that? What other tips do you have for us to bring that heart rate down, control ourselves, get calm? What else can we be doing?
I've got 2 techniques, because this is important whether you're about to score a goal or you're caught in a traffic jam or you need to react to a loved one in a kind way, even though you want to maybe throttle them. So this is relevant for many situations. And there's two things you can do. The one is to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth for equal counts. So the ideal count is 5 in, 5 out. So 5 seconds inhale, 5 seconds exhale. But if you can't do that because your lungs are quite tight and you're highly stressed, and you just start with 3 and 3, if you can do longer, great. But that takes us into what we call heart coherence, which helps the heart and the brain align, because the heart gives off a magnetic field, the brain gives off an electric field. And when you breathe slowly and deeply, it only takes 30 seconds to a minute. So this happens really quickly. And the more you practice it, the easier it gets. But you literally change the electromagnetic field around you. So this isn't woo-woo. We can measure this. It's a bit like when you go to the doctor and you get an ECG done. They measure the field around your heart. And when you slow down your breath, you create a stronger field. It reduces cortisol, the stress hormone, in your system. And you can impact the person that's in front of you. So if you're having an argument, or you're in a difficult situation, or you're aiming for a goal, that's likely what he did, is he slowed down his breathing, or he did another breathing technique. So that's called heart coherent breathing. That's when you equal the inhale and exhale, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Or he might have done something like box breathing, which I know is something that the military and a lot of sports people learn because they're under high stress situations. And do you know what box breathing is?
No. I want to hear.
That's the end of our seats with you.
That's, I would say, once you know how to breathe in and out for equal counts, you could then move to the box breathing, because now what you do is you do the same thing, but you add a hold on the inhale and a hold on the exhale. And the way I remember it is it looks like a box. So you breathe in for 5 counts, hold for 5 counts, breathe out for 5 counts, and hold for 5 counts. So it's like 4 steps in the breath, and you equalize each of those steps. And that is a very powerful way to for those, some people might be listening that are into the geek part of it, and that activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest, which is all about keeping brain waves in alpha, slowing down the heart rate, allowing blood flow to work properly, and our intuition stays online. Unlike the stress response, where we go into fight or flight and everything becomes focused on solving the issue that's stressing us, and we lose big picture thinking. We don't digest our food, our immune system goes down. So those 2 breathing techniques, I'm sure that he would have, at that point of standing on the pitch, done some deep breathing of some kind that helped his heart to go into coherence.
What's really powerful is the explanations that you give, because everybody will say, if you're stressed or you're getting angry, just breathe or count to 10.
Yeah, what does that mean exactly?
But understanding, the electromagnetic impacts, what you say, heart coherence breathing, the impact, exactly what's going on in the body and why it's making a difference, really lands the point so much more powerfully. So I think if we take nothing away, we're going to learn how to count the breaths in 60 seconds. Are we doing 6 to 8, or are we doing more? We're definitely going to practice. I think the box breathing idea brings together, the 5 seconds in, 5 seconds, or count of 5 in and out. Wonderful. Love those techniques.
I've also got one more technique, if you'd like.
Oh,
Go for it.
This comes from a wonderful lady who wrote the book Leadership Embodiment, Wendy Palmer. But on the inhale is to imagine strong back as you breathe in. So you lengthen your posture in a way that's comfortable, not to feel overly stiff. And then soft front as you exhale. So inhale, strong back. You create a bit of height and posture. And then soft front. You allow your facial muscles, your neck and your shoulders to relax. And I, as a professional speaker, speaking professionally in front of an audience can be very stressful, even though I've done it for many years. And I often use that technique. As I breathe in, I think strong back, soft front. And for leadership teams, I use this technique a lot because we speak about heart-led leadership. And what that means is also to embody a sense of being wholehearted and open-hearted, which takes courage. So you've got a strong back behind you. It can sometimes help to imagine someone that you know has your back for real. And you imagine them like perhaps, Andrea, you can imagine John with his hand gently on your back if you're ever in a stressful situation to give you courage while you breathe in and keep a soft front. There we go. And that I find these techniques, the more I practice them, when I really need them, like I'm in a stressful situation, I default to them. So to all the listeners, please don't take my word for any of this. Try these techniques out, but try them when it doesn't matter so much. So that when you are having a conversation with someone and you need to be kind in that relationship, you've already practiced the techniques when it doesn't matter. It's a bit like a professional athlete. You know, those footballers practice all season for that big, most important match. We need to practice so that when we're about to run late or we need to quickly stand up and do an impromptu speech, we can manage our internal stress response and state.
Yeah. I see you're still giving me a strong back here.
I'm still doing that. And I'm loving it because anything back focused at the moment I am latching onto because I have unfortunately what they call a herniated disc or a disc bulge or a slip disc as we used to call it in the old days. And so I'm much more conscious of my posture now. But I noticed when you said that I was kind of down like this. So
the minute you said it,
I've gone to it. Gone to it. Watch my back. Strong back. Soft front.
Back, soft front.
So here's what would be helpful. Could you share, without sharing names or anything identifiable, could you share an example of maybe a business leader who was really facing either illness or in illness, broken relationships around, and how you help take them on this journey of this holistic approach to well-being and the difference that made for them? Any stories you could share?
Yeah, gosh, so many. Let me intuitively feel into that. Because when I work with leadership teams, I use two themes. And the usual theme that I start with the team is by using an assessment that I designed many years ago called the Wellculator. And the Wellculator looks at 10 areas that are foundational for our physical, mental, and emotional well-being. And I always say to leaders that all they need to do is take one thing from the Wellculator, not 10. One thing, and commit to creating a new habit around that. And that's their strategy to become their own CEO, Chief Energy Officer. And that applies to anybody. If you want to manage your energy or effervescence, I sometimes use Chief Effervescent Officer. It's the small things that we consistently do, not the big, because everyone can do a big diet for 1 week, but then we come with it, right?
Yeah.
So I've had recently a lot of the leaders and people in general that I'm working with are struggling to get the quality sleep that they need. So the awareness of what's maybe sabotaging that, and often that relates to constant stimulation through our phones and screens. And also when we wake up in the morning, a lot of us use our phones as alarm clocks. So this particular leader decided to charge their phone in a separate room and purchased a regular alarm clock because they are available, regular alarm clocks. And instead of reaching straight for the phone and immediately getting the stress response potentially engaged by seeing the news or social media or messages or emails, to take half an hour, 20 minutes, half an hour to themselves and to do one or two of these breathing techniques, or simply to make a cup of tea, go to the bathroom and then pick up their phone. And the impact on their stress levels. And what was shared the other day with me was that they had an incredible creative idea come to them seemingly out of nowhere. And that's what happens when we create these opportunities for our inner wisdom. But that only happens when the nervous system is calm. Is calm. And often the start of our day is a beautiful time where most of us can buy solitude, stillness, silence before we engage with life.
The world,
So I always encourage people in the morning, is there a way that you could add, even if it is just 1 minute, it doesn't have to be half an hour, but to put yourself first. So you have a full cup. When you turn to your family, your friends, your community, your business, you are overflowing. As opposed to getting drained.
With the right things.
With the right things. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes, I love that. That's one of the things we like to talk about as well. Defend the morning. Defend your morning routine, because that's yours to set yourself up for the whole day, and you can't give what you don't have. So and also personally, I 10 years ago when I went through a divorce, it was a very difficult time, and I struggled with sleep because I'm naturally
I tend towards being a very light sleeper. So I have insomnia if I'm not managing my nervous system. And I was focusing on everything I could do before going to bed. Don't have caffeine too late, use lavender drops on my pillow, darkness, and none of that was working. What helped me was in the morning to get outside and have 10 or 15 minutes of natural light. And now we know the science. When we wake up in the morning, the eyes need to see natural light because there are photochemoreceptors right behind the optic nerve that regulate the waking and sleeping response, which is fascinating. So if you can, and I know it's not always easy now in the Northern Hemisphere going into autumn and winter.
Exactly.
Where's the
fun?
But as soon as you are able to, at the beginning of your day, spend 15 minutes outside, even if you need to be standing in a doorway because it might be raining, look to the horizon, get that natural light in. And this is where I encourage people to do habit stacking. So we're all pressed for time and busy. So if you're standing outside and you're looking at the horizon, maybe that's when you could experiment and practice some box breathing. Or you could think of a gratitude practice, or you could listen to something that's going to be uplifting around your well-being. So you're stacking one or two habits together, and it feels like maybe you're getting the most out of that particular action that you're taking.
Yeah, amazing.
It's a good reminder to go and do your morning run.
Yes.
Are you out there?
Amazing.
To be outside, yeah. As opposed to using the cross trainer, because the fresh air and the brightness really makes a difference for me.
Yeah.
These are brilliant habits that you're sharing for us to develop good practices around. What would you say, given that everybody's stress level is heightened, there's so much change and uncertainty and conflict in the world right now. I think everybody's stress cup is just closer to full, much closer to the brim and easy to tip over than it used to be. What would you say are the core habits? You've mentioned some of them, but if you were to advise the average person listening in, busy, work-life balance, what are the things that we need to become more intentional about to just deal with the level of stress that's swirling around us in the world?
That's a big question. So what I'm going to say is twofold. Firstly, if you're listening to this and you enjoy my message and style, the Wellculator is available on my website free of charge, and you can take the assessment and see where potentially in those 10 areas you could maybe be curious about improving and enhancing. And that takes a look at things from gut health to hydration to mental fitness to sleep to moving during your day to stress awareness.
Right.
So there's that for those that would like to maybe dive a bit deeper, and you can always be in touch with me then, find me on the social media links attached to this. And if I can help you, I will. If I can't, I'll do my best to find a resource that can. The second, then genuinely, I think and feel that we need to build a relationship with ourselves. And that happens through stillness, solitude, silence. So staying off devices and technology. And even if it's 1 minute or 2 minutes or 5 minutes a day, sit with ourselves. And if this was easy, we would all be doing it. It's not. David Whyte, who's one of my favorite poets, who I went on a walking tour with him and his wife in Japan. There were a small group of us. And David speaks a lot about burnout and fatigue because he also works in the corporate world. And one of the hardest things when you're so stressed and busy is to give yourself permission to stop. Indeed, and come back to neutral. We're just so used to changing gears. We go from leadership mode to friend mode to parent mode we think we don't have time. But sitting with ourselves, and you can do this by focusing on your breath, maybe having a guided practice, or maybe you just commit to sitting with a friend, but making time to genuinely build that authentic intimacy with yourself. So AI within. Because the more we can connect with, because we have all the intelligence that we need within us. Like I said at the start, we just need to pay attention and tune into that. So I would say making time in your day to be either still or silent or some time in nature. We're very disconnected from nature, and nature is so good for us. The Japanese have an art called forest bathing, where doctors prescribe time in the forests if you have depression or anxiety. And I had an experience of that myself when I was there, and it was incredible. So there's that lovely expression that says there's nothing that cannot be solved by a walk around the lake.
Oh, amazing.
You know,
Yeah.
so spend time in nature, try and see where you can create maybe just one mindful minute in your day, come to yourself and your breath. And that's a great place to start. That to me should be a non-negotiable, is authentic intimacy with ourselves, because then we can show up authentically with those around us and build and thrive and win and create harmony in our relationships.
Yeah.
And if we don't, I was going to say, if we don't take that time, take that minute, because most people, well, not most people, everybody will say, I'm busy, I haven't got the time, blah, 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 blah. We hear it all the time. But if you don't take that time and make that time, you'll end up having to take the time in hospital, or, and then what, then all of a sudden you find the time, right? You've got to find the time to be in hospital.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I was doing a leadership workshop last week, and someone in the group said, this workshop has reminded me of the expression I heard, that your body at some point will give you an invoice.
Yes.
Your body will give you an invoice. So it's a good idea to put lots of deposits into that account, and that comes back to managing our health while we're building wealth.
Yes.
Using the two to leverage each other.
And your message is so important for now, because one of the things we realize is that as people, we've kind of gone along on the bandwagon of whatever's coming next. So we used to have more clear boundaries when it was a more, agrarian, agriculture-based society, where we worked when the sun was up and we went to bed when the sun went to bed. Then suddenly we had electricity, and so we can extend our day. And then suddenly we had the mobile phone, so we can be in any time zone and be reached by any time zone. And we're not very good at creating our own boundaries to keep ourselves safe. So now we've ended up in this always on culture with every ping and ding and ring. And the minute we wake up, we're on. And unless we become intentional about the habits that you're talking about, burnout is inevitable, because we're just being swept along by the tide of being always on and always available. That precious gift of solitude that you mentioned, as you say, it's hard, but that's one of the things that we need to get a lot better at, to push back at the pings and dings. How do you defend your time? How do you make sure you have solitude? Because I can just hear the noise in the head of so many busy professionals saying, I'd love to do that, but that's a luxury. I don't have that time. How do you do that?
May I bring in some champagne?
Oh, please. Now we're talking. I love the way you think.
There you go.
So I am from when I have a photograph of when I was turning 1, and my mom was, I was sitting on her lap in France. All my family are from the Champagne region in France, even though I was born in South Africa. And she's holding the champagne glass under my nose so that the bubbles can pop. So at the age of 1, I was just drawn into the world of the alchemy of champagne. And I'm not encouraging, I'm not saying that we need to drink champagne. What I do like what I do love about champagne, or any sparkling wine really, is that it's often synonymous with celebration. If we see somebody drinking a sparkling drink, we assume it's a birthday or an anniversary or a wedding or something. And so I'm very passionate about people creating champagne moments or creating a sparkling life, not necessarily by drinking that beverage, but by being more aware. And when champagne was first discovered in the 17th century, the glass in France was not strong enough to hold the pressure that builds up, because there's 6 atmospheres of pressure in a bottle of champagne.
Is that right? Wow.
And so the bottles would explode constantly until it was because of the English that was slightly more ahead in lead and glass making, that the bottles were actually made stronger and able to withstand the pressure. And why I say that is, the bottle for me is a boundary. It holds the pressure inside the bottle for the effervescence. That process is called la prise de mousse. It's the capturing of the sparkle. It's the second fermentation that takes place in a very magical way, in the cellar, in the dark, in stillness. So there's a second clue. We need
Wow.
boundaries strong enough to hold the pressure and exuberance that we want in our lives or have in our lives. And we need stillness and darkness. So for me, there are two things that I do to keep my boundaries. My glass bottle is strong to hold the amount of pressure I have in my life and the amount of effervescence and joy that I want to express at the times that I do. And that is sleep and rest. I thought that I needed 7.5 hours of sleep. I don't. I need 8.5 to 9. And I've accepted that in the last year, and it's changed my energy levels. I just feel incredible. And my insomnia, the anxiety I had around falling asleep, is dissolving day by day. So my boundary is I really focus on giving myself space to sleep, and it's not a waste of time. I understand that it helps me to live and show up in the way that I do. And the second thing is my mornings, like you said. I keep my phone on flight mode, and I use features like Do Not Disturb on certain apps. So when I wake up, I'm not tempted to let the outside world pour in before I've poured into my own glass, my own bottle. So those two things are, and I encourage the leaders and people I work with, you know, if you are waking up with your phone right beside your head and immediately engaging it, you're going straight from alpha brainwave to beta, you're going straight into stress, you're releasing cortisol and adrenaline, and actually you can never buy that time back. But if you waited 5 minutes or 15 minutes, you could have a thought pop out of nowhere and solve a problem. So you end up only working for 2 hours on an issue versus 4 hours.
Indeed.
You know? Yeah. So evening and mornings for me, that's my strong boundaries, especially at the moment with the pace of life.
What's your evening routine? So in the morning, I can see you have the solitude and your breathing and so on. Not touching the phone.
And the boundaries of exactly, or even if you do touch the phone, the do not disturbs on and so on. So you're not being inundated by stuff that's not you don't need, you can deal with that later.
Yeah.
And I've got a lovely stack of books next to my bedside table. So if we stop habits, we can create a vacuum, and then those old habits will come back in.
Yeah.
So we don't want to have a void. So anything that you want to stop, rather add things in. So if you say you want to stop drinking too much coffee, I would say rather add in a glass of water in between every cup of coffee. The same as if you want to eat less sugar, I would say rather add in fresh fruit or some natural sweetness to naturally displace the craving, say, for chocolates or sweets. The same thing at night. Instead of just saying, I'm going to come off my phone for an hour before bed, and most of us struggle to do that, what are you going to do instead? Are you going to start a paint by numbers creative project? Are you going to read a book? Are you going to start a new hobby? So think of adding things in rather than taking things away or just stopping things.
Yeah. Brilliant. And we haven't even spoken about the diet side of stuff. What were you going to say?
I was going to say that's when I do my piano practice. I'm learning piano in my midlife, as you say, midlife. I love that. But when you said the thing, you said what was it? Somebody said at some point your body will give you an invoice. It reminded me of something else somebody said to us, which is by the time you turn 50, you will have the body that you deserve. And we both said, "Ouch." Because really, when you're, I guess, under 50, you can get away with a whole lot of things. They're adding to that invoice, which is coming. But once you're past 50, I think the body is so much less forgiving that we all really need to be so much more conscious of taking care of ourselves and doing the things. There have been so many treats that you've given us in this conversation here, Celynn. I just want to know before we go, is there any more? Any, or you had something else you wanted to go?
I was going to say any hints you can give around diet. You mentioned substituting good, not getting rid of bad habits, but adding in good habits around food. What else do we need to pay attention to as busy professionals?
Well, to save you 5 years of study to become a dietitian, I would say be curious about the amount of natural color you have in your diet. So I say eat like an artist. Make your plate a canvas for color, and color does not come from M&Ms or crisps or these ultra processed foods. It needs to come from
Diet Coke is brown. No, that's color.
brown needs to come from, let's say, a mushroom.
Okay.
And ideally, so be curious about gut health. There's so much more awareness in the media around what gut health means. So be curious about are you eating a rainbow of foods? Literally in a week, we should expose ourselves to like red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet foods, fruits and vegetables and salads, so natural produce. And be curious of how you can add more of that in, because I don't know each of you individually, whoever's listening or watching, but I do know the privilege of being in this position is thousands of people have shared their personal health stories with me. And so many, when you focus on the gut, you give it a little bit more fiber, you give it more minerals and vitamins and gut-friendly foods, because most of our immune system sits in the gut. We can reduce the inflammatory response that starts aging on every level. So you can manage your skin, your mood, arthritis, diabetes. I mean, mental health is so connected to the gut, is called the second brain for a reason. So focus on fiber and natural foods. Get yourself a funky recipe book that's quick and easy. Try 1 day a week to eat a new type of vegetable. There's a lot of tips and techniques on my website. If people, you can reach out to me. I can forward recipes to you. I've got a little pamphlet called Eat Like an Artist that gives you my top 7 tips of how I do this, because I'm busy. I'm running a business. It's not always easy. I don't want to spend my whole life in the kitchen, even though I consider myself a foodie. I love food. Love food. I love feeding people too.
Okay.
We have to come visit you.
Yeah, exactly.
You are
Mental
welcome.
note was made.
Eat like an artist. What I love is the way that you inspire rather than correct. You pull us to want to do better by the way you explain it and do it with such joy. You've mentioned a couple of resources, but what's the website? How do people find you and get in touch with you?
Well, my name has different spelling, so I think maybe with the show notes, it's CelynnMorin.com. And on my website, you can access the Wellculator. I also do a weekly recipe. And I've got some meditations that I launched last week, because I've been told my voice is very soothing.
It is.
Yeah, so there are 2 meditations, one for sleep. It's 11 minutes long. And the feedback I'm getting is incredible. I feel so humbled and touched that people are like, they're using it and it's working. And the other one, you listen to in bed in the morning before you start your day. So you download it onto your phone so that you can use it when your phone's on flight mode, remember? You don't want to be distracted by WhatsApps. And if you start and end your day with 11 minutes for yourself, that's what I do. So your question around my boundaries, that's my gift to people. And they're high quality production. I've brought in what we call binaural beat music and 8D panning music. So it helps to shift your brain waves. So it deeply relaxes you very quickly. And, you need to experience them. It's an immersive experience. It's helpful to listen to them with headphones. So you get the double frequency coming into the ears. So that's available on my website.
Wonderful. A really great resource. And we'll put the actual spelling, the correct spelling
in the show notes. Yeah.
So that
Great.
I'm just thinking how I can use these. But our son had these headphones that he wasn't using anymore. He got some new ones. So I've inherited his old ones and patched them up a little bit. But they got noise cancelling on them. So I'm thinking I might be listening to some of this stuff there, noise cancelled in bed.
You'll feel like you're in a different world. You'll end your day and hopefully just fall asleep so fast that you don't even realize you got headphones on. And in the morning, I had somebody message me this morning saying she's meditated for 20 years and never come across a morning meditation like that. So I'm not going to say anything more, but there's some lovely visualizations, and I link in the champagne theme, which everyone, even if you don't drink, people generally love the idea of celebration and popping corks and things like that.
And that's the point. It's not the drink, it's the emotion that talking about champagne evokes. Wonderful. No, it's amazing. Really appreciate that. For me, my faith and my prayer time is what I defend first thing in the morning. So even the thought of a headphone to me is getting into too much technology. So
I appreciate that.
I would love for everybody to experience moments of solitude, because it is such a gift that we can give ourselves. So check out Celynn's details, her gifts, her offerings on her website, and let's all get into a better habit of putting boundaries in place, getting a better authentic intimacy with ourselves so that we can turn up better in the world.
AI with ourselves. Love
Authentic
it.
intimacy with other people. I love that. You know, there is so much more that you just bubble over. You're like champagne itself. Your own effervescence of what you're sharing. We could go into so much more, but I'm conscious of the time. I think we should end it there. Any final thoughts, Celynn, that you'd like to leave the audience with?
Stay curious. Stay curious. Keep an open mindset about everything, because everything changes. Everything's impermanent. You know, what you believe today, you may not believe tomorrow. I've had my own life experience around that. So stay curious, even when you're with people in relationship, be it somebody close or a stranger, and you don't know, don't judge them. Be curious about why they might be doing or saying or feeling what they are.
Yeah, indeed.
You never know why.
You never know
Absolutely love that. Well, thank you so much. It's been great having you. We've learned so much as have the audience today. Thank you for being with us, and to our audience around the world.
It's a wrap.
It's a wrap.
See you next time.
See you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Great. Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed that episode. And if you did, and you want to hear more, the best thing to do is subscribe. Then you'll never miss an episode. There's a new one every Friday. You can stay connected with us on social media at The 4 Habits for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and to participate in discussions related to the show. We always love to hear from you. And of course, if you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a review on your preferred platform to allow us to reach more listeners and help people around the globe radically transform the way they do relationships, so they too can enjoy better harmony at home, thrive at work, and win at life.